As guitar builders, we use a huge variety of very attractive, exotic woods. And some of the properties that make them beautiful is their skin routine, the waxes and the oils, etc., that they use to actually protect themselves in the wild from excess moisture, from insects, etc. The problem is that a lot of these waxes and oils essentially make these woods waterproof.
Burn it.
For example, if you take a piece of cocobolo that you've just put through the planer thicknesser and spray it with some water, the water droplets, the water will accrete on the surface, if that's the correct word, as droplets. It is not wanting to penetrate. Now, the problem with this is that modern wood glues, all wood glues, are water-based. And if they're water-based and you're trying to glue a waterproofed wood, it's not going to work, or it's not going to work as well. We need to remove those waxes and oils so that the glue can do what it does. Two properties of wood glues that come into play here. One is adhesion, obviously, and that is how well it sticks on the surface. And then you've got cohesion, which is the fact that modern wood glues, and there's a huge amount of science behind them that is both incredibly interesting and partially opaque to me, but how well the glue sticks to itself. Think Mrs. Incredible, think Venom, when he's all over the place and then pulls everything back. It sticks to itself very, very well. Wood glue, hide glue, that sort of polyvinyl acetate, etc., that needs to penetrate into the timber. It needs to penetrate into the joint so that the cohesive properties can work to their maximum effect. You could glue up a neck joint on a solid body cocobolo guitar, not advisable, with a cocobolo neck, and send the guitar off, and it could be fine until the guitarist has one too many, leans the guitar up against a bar, and then the bass player knocks it over. And that short, sharp shock will delaminate the two surface layers of wood, or the surface layer of glue in between your joint, and it will just delaminate. This has happened before many, many, many times. And this is why I do not recommend using epoxy as a glue. It tends to be thicker, it tends not to penetrate as well, and chances are you will end up with a very nice, very strong and stable and waterproof joint for a while. Polyurethane glues, same sort of thing. I did an experiment a long time ago gluing a fretboard to a neck, i.e. long grain to long grain, and I took the neck, slammed it against a workbench, and then I peeled the whole fretboard off because there was no penetration with that polyurethane glue. This is the foaming stuff. And it had a nice solid joint, and if somebody hadn't decided to smack the guitar against a workbench, it would not necessarily have been a problem. We need our wood glue to penetrate into the timber, and the waxes and oils that are in the wood are stopping that. Now, the received wisdom, and a method that absolutely works every single time, is to use a solvent of some sort to clean the surface level and a little bit internally of the waxes and minerals out. You can use denatured alcohol, you can use isopropyl alcohol. They're different things. Denatured alcohol is really not good. It's got added bits and pieces. Isopropyl alcohol is what you use to disinfect your hands, etc. And it does work on this. Mineral spirits, I have heard work, but I also get the feeling that they leave a little bit of stuff on the surface, which can also affect your glue joint. You go in with a relatively dry application of, in my case, isopropyl alcohol. apply it onto a strong tissue or rag. Do not soak anything. You don't want to absolutely flood it. You want to go relatively dry. And as you are applying the isopropyl alcohol, if you're using a cocobolo or a rosewood, you will see some of the color come back off. And that tells you that the alcohol is doing the job that you require of it. You can do this 2 or 3 times until you are happy that it looks like you've taken the outer layers of the minerals and waxes off. But you do not want to wait too long before you glue your joint. These minerals and waxes and things will migrate to the surface. It's what they do. They are designed to seal the wood, and wood is essentially a whole bunch of tubes. So you want to glue your joint up relatively rapidly. The nice thing about alcohols is you can see that it off-gases very, very quickly. Generally within 5 or 10 minutes, all of the alcohol will be gone from the system, and you can then move on to the next stage. A quick side note, you do not want to glue 2 perfectly flat, highly sanded surfaces together. This goes back to the fact that you want the glue to penetrate. If you've got essentially a burnished surface where you've sanded to, I don't know, 1500 grit or 1200 grit, and you're looking at this going, wow, that looks like it's got a finish already. The glue won't penetrate, your lacquers won't penetrate. Not ideal. Before you glue, you have got to lightly key up the surface. I'm not talking about putting huge scratches in. I'm talking about using 150 grit, 200, 220 grit, no more than that, sandpaper. And you are both preparing the surface for glue and removing anything left by the solvent that you have chosen to use to clean the joint. In the absolute most extreme of cases, I have heard of people using shellac to seal the joint before you use your wood glue. The reasoning behind that is, it feels somewhat specious to me. You put a very thin coat of de-waxed shellac, blonde, because hey, and let that dry and then lightly sand the surface. And what that is supposed to do is stop the oils and waxes from migrating through into the joint. The thing is, if you glue up very quickly, the glue that you use is going to have the exact same effect. So I do not believe that it is required, except maybe in the absolute worst of cases, the waxiest, gnarliest of timbers. I don't think it would be required to seal it with shellac, other than maybe in that situation. But you should know that it is potentially an option. Lightly sand your joint and then clamp up as usual. Now, as ever, don't put too much pressure on the clamp. If you find yourself forcing things, if you find yourself if it feels like a workout, then you're doing something wrong. You can starve the joint. You can push too much glue out of the joint and you end up with not very much glue internally. It's not ideal. So there we go. To recap, if you have a particularly oily or waxy wood, you're making a cocobolo fretboard, for example, you want to prepare the timber beforehand, make sure that your joint is wonderful and nice and clean. Then use an isopropyl alcohol or a denatured alcohol to clean off the waxes and minerals, to remove it and strip it out of the outer surface of your joint. Do not flood it. Just use a relatively dry application and do that 2 or 3 times. As soon as the alcohol has off-gassed and it visibly looks dry, take a relatively coarse sandpaper, 150 to 220 grit, and prepare the surface for your wood glue. And at that point, it's game on as usual. Apply glue, clamp up, and find some fretwork to do. Happy guitar building.